The drum beat never changes tempo. It's steady like a rock, and like a rock it crushes you as it gets louder. The drum gets louder and louder, and you know there is no parking on the dance floor. And when you wake up you can feel your hair grow, crawl out of your cave, and you can watch your shadow creep across the ground until the day is done. All the while the planet circles round the sun. Everybody knows how this goes, so let's get over it and let's get this over with.
You know, as much as I shit on Dark Souls 2, this game has a lot of really nice establishing shots, and like overall aesthetic design for most of the individual areas is actually really nice. Anyway, I've said my one nice thing for the episode, let's go. This city design is really stupid. You have to hit not one but two switches to extend this walkway so that you can go and hit a third switch to extend another walkway to enter this building. What's the problem, you ask? The problem is that this is a fucking city where people lived. I mean, just imagine that's your house and you have to do this whole thing like twice a day. Imagine for any reason that that walkway gets refracted while you're inside, and now you have to shoot the switch to get out of your house. It's not even just here either. There's a whole bunch of switches in the castle, but there's just no physical way to reach. Like, what lunatic is designing all of this architecture with crossbows as an accessibility requirement? I mean, I've got to assume there is some kind of mad genius at work here. This guy invented automatic doors, what, 600 years ahead of time? But also didn't figure out that traps are meant to help defenders kill invaders, not the other way around. Was it this guy? Did this clown design this place? Is that why he's relevant here? Apparently he shows up at the windmill as well, and that place also has some pretty funky architecture going on, so... coincidence? Anyway, let's wreck the nerd. Was holding a direction down so the greatsword swung in completely the wrong direction, but I got him on the backswing anyway, and it's so stylish I'm gonna call it intentional. He then goes on to cast Warmth, despite having literally no melee capabilities, so I just get to fully aim off this and have a free source of infinite healing. I don't know why you would give that spell to someone with no melee capabilities, but sure. Anyway, forgot to mention this door while I was talking about stupid architecture earlier. The button that opens it is on the other side, so you have to press it by tossing grenades through this hole. And I fail to see the point in a door that you can open from both sides, but that's really difficult to open from one side. Okay, I'll stop complaining about video game environments not making literal sense as places that people would build or live in. After all, there are many more interesting things I could be complaining about. Like this shortcut. This is just a great shortcut. I love it. Thank you, Dark Souls, for this shortcut. Wait, shit, that's still architecture. Okay, how about this shortcut? See, this one probably would be useful for people living in the city, you know, if it didn't take you into a pit full of malformed half-dragons, but I'm going to assume that wasn't the case when this city was more in use. But it's basically completely useless to the player because this shortcut takes you between two bonfires. You can just teleport. And I mean, it's not like it's bad design, it's just kind of unnecessary. Like, you could just have either this shortcut or this bonfire, you don't really need both. Oh yeah, I should probably talk about this stuff in the castle, huh? So there's these guys. I'm a noted fan of enemies that do damage to you just for being near them. These guys don't do that, they just poison you, which is a lot better and you can actually play around it. However, poison doesn't care about iframes, so they can poison you while you're backstabbing them. There's also this spiked floor. Don't worry, it makes perfect sense, the defenders are all ghosts. But between the enemies being unkillable and the floor being mostly hazard, I really feel like it encourages you to just ignore everything and sprint through, like, more than normal. I did try to kill them. The game gives you a bunch of holy water in here, so I figured, hey, maybe that's how you do it. No, that does nothing. The real way to make them killable is to, desecrate their hallowed resting places. You know, that classic way to make ghosts less of a problem. There is actually a decent amount of pretty worthwhile stuff hidden away in here, so it's worth it. We're gonna be kicking around for a little while to pick up something special later, but for now, there's some dried rope. That seems like an item that's not helpful enough that you should dedicate a chest to it. Okay, it's super not an item that's useful enough that you should have it in 2 separate chests in the same room. What the fuck is the point of that? Okay. There's also this actually really cool magic sword that I just find like a little bit funny that the game claims is magnetic and not magical. That's pretty much everything of interest around here. There's one other boss, but it's optional and it's it's a little bit fucking insufferable. Yeah, that's it. Anyway, on to the Dragon's Sanctum. This place is actually pretty cool for like 5 entire seconds. It'd maybe be better if you didn't get in and immediately have to go scurrying down some little side path. Sure, whatever was up there was really cool. Oh well. Jumping puzzles are cool as well. I mean, that's something these games are really acclaimed for. Which is good, because the combat in this area is kind of garbage. It's like 5 or 6 one-on-one fights with this generic guy with the NPC moveset. No like environmental challenges, no other enemies, nothing. I guess they try and trick you into a 2v1 by just hiding another guy around the corner at the bottom of this staircase. But like, for one, as you saw, trivially easy to bait out. And also, like, predictable? I didn't know this guy was there, I just guessed. As per Dark Souls 2, the boss is fucking terrible, but at least every time you die you get to do the fun platforming again. To elaborate on the boss being terrible. So instead of the boss being interesting to fight at all, you fight a bunch of basic minions while the boss shoots projectiles at you. Once you're actually in melee range of the boss, they basically can't do anything to you. And can you see where this is going? Yeah, that's right, sprint past all of the minions and just go straight for the boss. Oh yeah, you can summon Felstat, by the way. That wasn't mod dev. Mod dev didn't touch the DLC at all. So the original developers did that, and no, this character has no more connection to Felstat. I don't know why he's here. Anyway, with that out of the way, it's on to Sin, the best dragon fight in all of Dark Souls. It always cracks me up a little bit that this giant door only opens up like a meter. Anyway, so, yeah, this boss fight's fine, actually. It mostly just suffers from, like, the generic problems of Dark Souls 2. Oh yeah, this introductory shot is really cool. It's a shame he follows it up with this fucking attack, which is god-awful. But I don't think he does that attack during the actual fight, so whatever. Likes to fly a lot, but we've got a solution for that. You can toxic you, which is pretty annoying, but only if you're so completely incompetent that you get hit with that breath attack twice in a row. And even if you do, this is Dark Souls 2, the game where you can chuck so many regen items that literally nothing matters. Honestly, my main takeaway from this fight is that small weapons are fucking terrible and you should never use them. Like, this is a plus 10 weapon that was at full durability at the start of this fight. As for Sin being best dragon, best in DS2, and like better than Ancient Wyvern, but compared to any of the actual fights in other games, nah. Anyway, you remember this useless guy? Doesn't matter, he's been promoted to Useful Corpse. We're on the hunt for an incredibly rare drop, and we are going to need a Gold Covetous Ring for it. In fact, even with the Gold Covetous Ring, I had to farm these knights until only this one was still spawning. He only dropped it on his last spawn. But it's only in this terrible area that you can find a second repeating crossbow. And only in this terrible game that you can duel repeating crossbows. This is actually a really bad stupid idea and you shouldn't do it, but we've respec'd our entire build into it, so we will. I'll get more into why this was a bad idea later, but for now the major issues are, 1, we now have ammo to worry about, and we burn kind of a lot of it. Number 2, the damage isn't actually what you might call great. And number 3, unlike melee weapons, crossbows don't have swing arcs, so we can't really fight multiple enemies at a time, like at all. Now, there are some upsides. We have gained the overwhelming power to exploit the fact that most of the level design was done with melee in mind. And also the classic AI is dumb as bricks and would still consider you stealthy if you were carrying an air raid siren. So between those, we can mostly avoid having to actually fight groups. Not always, but mostly. And a worst case scenario, you can always fall back on the unreliable. Now this bit is actually pretty rough because it's too thin to just sprint past everything and the enemies are all kind of too tanky to fight with crossbows, but you can really turn the environment to your advantage here. It's actually pretty cool. Though I'm not a big fan of this enemy, which can appear from nowhere to give you the old teleports behind you nothing personnel kid. That's still probably the best bit of level in this DLC though. Beside that, there's this notorious dickhead of an invader who runs away through a bunch of enemies because it wasn't annoying enough when actual players who don't have 3,000 odd health do that. Oh yeah, and to return to the absolute classic, multiple paths, most of which are actually just traps. Oh, and speaking of classic maneuvers, there's two on real display here. Dark Souls 2's classic, hey, you know this real tough enemy, how about you fight just way too many of them? And the player classic, how about I don't? I mean, really, 3 of these guys, are you kidding? They're so tanky and they kill you so fast. One of these guys is a pretty substantial challenge. I mean, watch this. That was half my health. Ugh. No, just fight 3 of them at once, that's fine. So, oh, that's probably important. Good thing I went back to that, huh? Well, still got it, so fuck you. Where am I going anyhow? Shit. Fuck. Crap. Oh, hi. I'll just be on my way, don't hate that fire thing. Alright, run around, give it another try. Meant to do that, it's only intention. How did that not hit me? Eat a dick. Anyway, we're nearly at the end of this DLC. I've been waiting for this since that Old Iron King fight. Wow, that was really quite dodge. Anyway, yeah, remember when I said the next high point was in like 30 odd hours? Well, that's now. We're coming up on Fume Night, and I really like this boss. I think this is like an A-tier boss for the whole series. Like, this doesn't even have a it's good for Dark Souls 2 qualifier. This is just a good fight. I mean, possibly your perspective is warped a bit because you have to play 60 hours of Dark Souls 2 to get here, but nah, I think it still holds up. Okay, so now would probably be a good time to get more into the problems of the dual crossbow build. I think firstly it's important to reiterate a couple of my earlier points. Namely, that ammo is a thing, and damage isn't great. Now, these two issues could create the third issue of not having enough ammo. I've got enough, but I could not be bothered grinding for it if I did. You know, like if this took a lot of attempts or something. No, the real major issue is actually this. Dual crossbows sounds like a fun meme build. It's actually tremendously not fun in practice. Like, especially versus bosses. It's a lot of kiting, running away from the boss, and not really engaging with the boss. You're not really fighting it, you're just running away and shooting when it's safe. And if this sounds familiar, that is in fact because this is basically just sorcery, but with shit damage. And I don't enjoy sorcery very much either, so yeah, whatever. Back to Greatsword now. I'm going to gush about this boss. Humanite is just incredibly good. Even the generic problems of Dark Souls 2 mostly don't apply to this boss. Compared to 1 and 3, this game's always had a really clumsy, awkward feel to me, but not Humanite. Like, his attacks don't have that slow, floaty feel that almost every other animation in this game has. And when he does have a really slow attack, it still looks every bit as devastating as it actually is. And because the rest of his attacks aren't weirdly slow and floaty, this very intentionally slow attack is really good at catching you out. He's also agile enough to dodge you if you don't counterattack fast enough, and he can really get around the arena, but he's not just annoyingly impossible to pin down like Sinner. He's also aggressive without being overwhelming, which is really cool, because look at my health here. I know that I can't safely heal while he's not doing anything, which means I have to bait him into an attack first, which creates so much tension. Such a good fight. It's a shame it's the only one in the entire fucking game. There's one more DLC, but I kinda hate that one, so I'm not gonna do it. Ready to look like an idiot if Mod Dev has actually changed that one, but they haven't touched either of the others, so. By the way, that's a really nice entire body you very clearly have there. Head of a Fangirl. Anyway, this boss sucks. That pillar doesn't look like it's meant to be there, so I guess Mod Dev did that. It's a small change, but it's a good one. And this boss sucks. So, final thoughts. Do I recommend Augur of Darkness? No. Like, I couldn't recommend it for a first playthrough, and therefore recommending it means recommending playing Dark Souls 2 more than once, and I can't do that. Thing is that most of the problems with Dark Souls 2 are like fundamental gameplay problems, and Augur doesn't fix those, but I'm not going to fault Augur for not fixing those. That's not what it was trying to do. What it was trying to do was change up the levels, and I think for the most part it did that pretty successfully. Certainly didn't like all of the changes, but all of them made the replay more interesting. Hell, sometimes it felt like I was going through an area for the first time again. And not usually because there was anything new. Usually just because mod dev had changed the level in some little way that forced you to actually go through more parts of the level. It's pretty clever. I also played through Cinders recently, and that's better because it's Dark Souls 3. But I kept coming back to this thought that, well, it felt just like Dark Souls 3. And that's because Cinders very rarely changes the levels at all. The only places in that mod that are wildly different from their base game counterparts are Firelink Shrine and Smoldering Lake. Everywhere else is more or less the same. And I compared that to Augur, where not everywhere is different, but most places are noticeably changed in some way. And I came to the conclusion that this is what a Dark Souls mod should do. You should strive to change the levels as much as possible. I think that's what matters. I don't think changing the gameplay is going to do much. The gameplay's already good. I mean, except Dark Souls 2, but fixing that would be a whole other thing. Anyway, that's my final thought. If you want to make a really good Dark Souls mod, I think the thing to focus on is changing the levels. Oh, fuck, finally done. Jesus Christ. I can clear this fucking 12 gigs of Dark Souls 2 footage off my laptop, and I can play some good fucking video games instead. I mean, I'm not going to, but I could is the point.